No shortage of news this week for the Roundtable, and we have an all-star cast today. Katie Fang is an attorney, former prosecutor, now in private practice, and a broadcast legal analyst. H.T. Smith is a veteran Miami attorney and a law professor at Florida International University. Political journalist Mark Caputo covers Florida for Politico, the go-to website for political junkies like us. And Marlon Hill is a Miami-based attorney and a talk show host, radio show host, tackling all kinds of community issues, just like we do here. Yes. Welcome, everybody.
Welcome.
Okay. Let's start out this morning with the late in the week, this indictment of Broward Sheriff's officer for manslaughter. Huge on so many levels, but an indictment is very different, H.C. Smith, from a charge outright, and it was 2 years in the making. What are the ramifications of a grand jury indictment in this case?
Well, first of all, like you said, it's been about 30 years since we've seen a police officer indicted in South Florida for shooting anyone. And the last time was William Lozano, the case that precipitated a riot down in Miami, and he was convicted and later acquitted. You know, we always say no one is above the law, not even our police officers. We give them a tremendous amount of authority, respect, and discretion. But what comes with that is accountability. And I think the indictment says to law enforcement and it says to the community that anybody who violates the law will be held accountable. I read in the paper yesterday that Roy Black said there's no chance that this person will be convicted. But I think the fact that he was charged is a step in the right direction. We don't know what the outcome will be, but he should be brought to be held accountable.
But is this necessarily a product of the post-Freddie Gray indictments and the fact that one of the 6 officers that was responsible for Freddie Gray's death, allegedly, is now on trial? They've presented their case, and they're going to basically get it to a jury this week, and we'll have a verdict.
I think it's a product of the fact that everything that's being done now is being seen by the people. The police said that the person would not drop his gun when he was ordered to do so. And he said he didn't have anything in his ears. Well, when he fell, someone took a photograph of him with earbuds in his ears.
We have that video.
And the earbuds wound up later in his pocket.
So what's worse than here? Is it maybe a mistake in the heat of the moment, or was this a cover-up, it seems? Well,
that's the environment that we're also in terms of the timing that some of these indictments and charges are coming along too. I think that something's really happening in America where we're really taking a very close look at the clash between civil rights and law enforcement environment. And the transparency that the social media has afforded us has now opened up the legal system to a part of America that has not been really paying attention. Yep. So I think the timing here as well with this BSO arrest, HD, is also an issue in regards to why did it take so long?
2 years.
2 years, July 2013. But to respond to Katie, we just had an officer convicted of raping 8 black women out in Oklahoma. We're seeing things and hearing things that we've never seen or heard before. And when I say see, I mean there are videos of a lot of things that's going on. Katie has a good point, though. Does what's going on in the nation, is that helping prosecutors and community to actually push for more charges? I don't know.
Well, it's a good question. I think we should also look in Miami-Dade. We've had a lot of officer-involved incidents where people have died. In fact, the most recent one was at Art Basel, what, 2 weeks ago?
Miami Beach. Well, it actually wasn't at Art Basel.
Pardon me. Yeah, there was just a mere. There was a mere stabbing at Art Basel. Okay. Yeah, the officers, officers surrounded a man who was obviously, he just got out of prison, out of his mind, had a barber shop blade, straight edge razor that he had stolen. But if you watch the reporting of Jim DeFede in Channel 4 and of Tim Elfrink in Miami New Times, they have exposed how the officers appeared not to have followed protocol in doing this, from the tasing of the guy to the other officer who then shot him as he was being tased.
Well, this was all on video, and anyone who watches the video sees that the taser and the gunshot fired
almost simultaneous.
Almost simultaneous.
Right.
Which begs the question, 2 different officers, did they have 2 different reactions?
Well,
or not?
It appears that the taser went off first, and under what's known as, I never heard this before, sympathetic gunfire, if a person has a gun drawn on someone and then hears a loud noise, he's going to press the trigger. And what's supposed to happen is that when you have a taser and you're going to deploy it as an officer in a situation like this, you're supposed to yell out taser. Everyone hears taser, and then they know someone's going to tase. That never happened. The guy who shot him with a taser shot him, and then the officer, hearing a noise, then shot him dead.
Well, in the interest of fairness, I will tell you what has gone unreported for now. They're looking into what this man said prior to about having a bomb, and I think that was probably...
When he went to go rob the bank.
He was shirtless.
A bomb can be planted in many places.
Oh, so shoot him dead? Oh, we're going to shoot you dead in case you planted a bomb
Well,
somewhere.
I'm just saying, as the media reports this story and takes the deep dive, I think it's really important to look at every side of the story.
But why have we not had any indictments of any of the officer-involved shooting here? One of the officers who did the tasing...
Well, you know, we have a civilian investigative panel here in the city of Miami that is supposed to be vetting some of these police officer involved shootings. And it's really the environment of civil rights. We really need to have an environment where folks are able to see that, that you can indict a police officer. As HD said, no one is above the law. And I think that the environment now is opening up and balancing out the powers.
And I have to say, as a former prosecutor who's dealt with very serious cases, it takes some time. It takes some time to be able to do a thorough investigation, so you do explore every side of what happens, including what was said that you couldn't hear with everybody's, you know, iPhone or whatever they were using. And once that process happens, then you eventually end up presenting to a grand jury, or you don't. I mean, but for example, look at the heat that Rahm Emanuel is getting in Chicago for what happened to Laquan McDonald. How long did it take for them when it looked very obvious that he was gunned down, you know, 16 times in the street? And so it just takes some time. So I want everybody, including the viewers who are watching, to understand there's no rush to judgment either way, and there really shouldn't be, especially when it involves law enforcement, because they are armed and they are charged with the responsibility of protecting the community. But it should take some time.
But sometimes it takes too long. The Memorial Day shooting on Miami Beach was a great example. Speaking of evidence, there are reports that police went around and got people's cell phones and erased the video from the Memorial Day shooting. This stuff becomes a little more difficult.
Some of that was actually on video, an officer asking to take
and it's multiple jurisdictions, hundreds of witnesses, videos. I mean, that's the point. It takes some time to be able to investigate.
And one of the officers who did the shooting in that case was the officer who tased the guy, leading to his death 2 weeks ago.
You say that as if that's an indictment of something. So what?
They are not following. They are obviously. Miami Beach has cases of cops who are juiced up on steroids, driving around on beaches, hitting people. You have a case of mass shooting on Memorial Day weekend.
He doesn't
you
like
have
the
this
beach
guy.
police.
Well, clearly there are time and time. Yeah, there are history and history and history of all this stuff. It's just coincidental that none of them ever did anything wrong.
But is it a crime or is it a civil lawsuit?
Well,
That's not exactly true.
Here comes the funding of body cameras, right? So we're not going to...
Which is in use in this particular case on Miami Beach. Can we turn just quickly to a monumental story in Venezuela that is no doubt going to be impacting South Florida for the first time in a lifetime, someone's lifetime, 17 years. Voters have said, moved away from, I guess is a better way to put it, socialism.
That's right.
And what do you think the impact on South Florida is going to be? Venezuelans that populate Weston and Doral largely are here because they are escaping that?
Yeah, but right now, Venezuela really is in really bad shape. We've got inflation of 159%. 18% of people are unemployed. We've got a situation, however, where the oil, which was $100 to $125 a barrel, which gave them the power to be a force in South America, is now down to $40 a barrel. We have the people, the countries moving away from the Chavismos, in Brazil.
Because of economics, not because of politics.
Well, in Argentina, the new leader is talking about human rights violations.
Well, we're going to see exactly how the president deals with this supermajority in the legislature. This is a bigger issue beyond Venezuela, including for the Caribbean as well, because Venezuela has this super sweet deal with the Caribbean for oil, selling cheap oil for financing. So it's going to impact Cuba, it's going to impact Trinidad and Tobago, it's going to impact, the price of oil is falling. And even with the conflict in the Middle East, sometimes you think that the price of oil is going to increase where there is more conflict. But Venezuela is suffering from falling oil prices.
But are we going to get more Venezuelans coming to Miami, especially now that you have more? Now you're not a socialist
Or those who are here,
are they going to go back?
No,
I don't know about that. Tens of thousands of homicides, tens of thousands of kidnappings,
Right.
$50 billion lent to Venezuela from China.
That's not going to change the political environment in Venezuela.
Are they necessarily going to stay here it's the same idea. Now that Cuba's opening its doors, are the Cubans going to go back to Cuba that are here?
I think that's a different issue, though.
True. No, I agree, but it kind of stirs the same
But we're going to
emotions.
see some serious conflict. Right, with a supermajority, they can now appoint and take people off the Supreme Court. We just saw the people who lost the election promote the judge who sentenced 14 years, Leopoldo Lopez. And now I'm sure the first thing that's going to happen, watch and see, within the next month, the new government's going to come in and give amnesty. And Lopez is going to announce for the president when the time comes up. And then they're going to try to take the President Maduro out.
The new government doesn't start until January 7th, so a lot can happen between
I think another problem that's gone unaddressed is that it's not that the voters really said no to socialism.
Right.
They said no to what the socialism had brought. Helena Palaio, a Venezuelan journalist from here, she had told me, she says, people are saying, look, I have to wait in line for 4 hours to buy chicken. I can't get toilet paper. You can't get certain feminine products. Right. This is not a way to build a country.
The definition of all politics is local is playing out right there. Stay with us. We'll be right back. They do.
The field of Republicans out there is so messed up, I figured it makes you miss me, doesn't it? Yeah. And that's saying a lot. Cruz and Rubio. Rubio and Cruz. Sounds like a Miami law firm. If you've been injured on the job, call Rubio and Cruz.
Love Will Ferrell as George W. Bush, making politics fun again. But
Donald Trump's been making politics fun for a while.
Well, let's talk about Cruz and Trump. Cruz in Iowa now zooming ahead. What happened there?
Well, I think people are now starting to really engage and look at the records. And in the end, if you're a very conservative person, you care about conservative issues, Trump is probably not your guy because he's been on all sides of the issues. He hasn't been a consistent conservative. If you like consistent conservatism with an evangelical Tea Party bent, Ted Cruz is your guy, and Cruz has positioned himself to be Trump's successor, and it's starting to work, apparently, in Iowa.
In Iowa.
You know, Cruz and Trump are in this very delicate cha-cha-cha dance with each other. They're not really, dancing with each other.
That's a mental image I'm not sure I wanted to have this
Yeah.
There's an alliance.
Wait, politics makes strange bedfellows.
Well, there's a big bed that they're laying out between each other. But they're in this type of alliance. Very interesting to watch.
Well, we talked in the last couple of segments. We started out with, the ban all Muslims, Trump's big headline this week, HT, and you heard people cheer in the background. What does that tell you about his candidacy and where it's going?
Anytime there's fear in the nation like this, you're going to have demagogues who step forward and take advantage of it. I'm very hopeful the American people, and a majority of the American people, will reject that. Once you begin, people look for things that are simple and fast in terms of resolving issues. But you start thinking, well, what about Muslim Americans who are outside the country? They can't come in? Well, I don't like that. What about Muslims who are coming to this country to go to the funeral of a Muslim relative who was killed fighting for America? Well, I don't like that. What happens when Muhammad Ali goes outside the country? He can't get back? Maybe that's not such a good idea. And then we begin to remember what our founding principles are all
Any
about.
bad news for Trump is good news. Right? This is what he's doing. Right? He is using those environments to steal the microphone, to steal the stage, and that's what it's all about for him in terms of publicity.
But more importantly, too, he's losing his stature in the international community, which, if you think about it, if you're the commander-in-chief, you're the president of the United States, and Netanyahu's like, yeah, no. And he's like, well, I'm not going to go now. I mean, what?
He got to the right of Benjamin Netanyahu and Muslims.
When does that happen?
That's tough to do.
Hello?
That's awesome.
That says it all.
Right?
Yeah.
But I think he's very comfortable there, though.
Right. And well,
but
he
are
is.
we?
And let's not do what a lot of the Republican elite, both in the consultant political world and in the media establishment, have done. They've said, Donald Trump doesn't represent our values. We don't know why all these Republicans have gone to him. Not true. Donald Trump did the birther thing for a while. No one really in the GOP establishment denounced him. This is a monster they helped create. And for a while, there was a subtle amount of Muslim bashing that was allowed in the GOP by the elites, by the establishment. And Trump has harnessed that. And, I hope it's not too inappropriate, but, in a kind of a racial political sense, Muslim is the new black, as far as it's okay to be prejudiced now against Muslims. that is where a lot of our culture and society is going right now.
Well, it's interesting that as we get closer to the caucuses and the primaries, it's now that the party is starting to really put in place a machine to try to
the
turn
Reince
the
Priebus
tide.
thing.
Yeah,
Are
but-
they actually planning it?
Yeah,
Exactly.
but let's also remember that Iowa has not been a very good indicator of who the Republican nominee will be. Winning Iowa has not been very positive in you becoming the nominee. So I think things are really going to heat up when we move to New Hampshire, Nevada, South Carolina, and Florida.
I think things will
SEC.
really heat up when we go to the convention, which I think is going to be a brokered one.
Ooh,
if you
you
ask
do?
me. Yeah,
They're
absolutely.
saying it's going to be that way.
Yeah.
So I want to use New Hampshire as a, watch this segue, kind of a cold and icy place. Let's go to ice hockey, which brings us back to Broward. Anybody
very
a
skillful.
Panther fan here?
Well done.
We've never gone.
I haven't
so
seen any
we're-
rats lately, but
Well, the team that you've never seen just got an $86 million tourist tax infusion in Broward County.
And I'm
You're
thankful,
just aching.
I am
to
thankful
go.
I don't live in Broward County. You fools. You put, $86 million more into an art, bringing the amount of tax money to like $324 million. And now they say, oh, well, we had to give the money because we would have lost money in the end. And that's based on our consultant studies. I'll bet if you went back in time and you saw the original financing deal for the stadium, they would have had consultants who would have
vetted
said, oh, this is going to pay for itself. And now you're going to hear the same thing over and over again. They shoveled more money into a bad deal.
But isn't that the problem? The original agreement put this agreement in
And
a
that deal,
very
the
bad
deal
place.
has changed quite a bit. But if the Panthers don't start throwing more rats into the rink, we're going to have a problem. If they don't start winning soon.
Have they done that lately?
They haven't really done that lately. It's really started very
It was
slow.
a
for the
5-3 vote, so it's not like it was like, neck to neck. I mean, it was a 5-3 vote in the Broward County Commission, and commissioners like LaMarca said no. And you're right, Mark's right. The number is huge, and they're now saying to justify the deal that there's an irrevocable letter of credit that will protect the county in the event that the things go south. But I gotta be honest with you, I don't see that being the case in terms of really protecting the county, and I don't really know who really vetted this deal at the beginning, as Glenna says, and then who vetted it now, because I'm not sure that I'm buying the numbers.
But according to the studies of the staff in Broward, it would have been an economic wash either way, but then wouldn't the county have been on the hook if something had gone wrong? What if the owners declared bankruptcy and null and voided everything?
And that's why the letter of credit is so important, because that supersedes bankruptcy. There's still $140 million owed for the original construction, not only of the arena itself, but the ramps leading into it. So now if the Panthers are not there, that's the anchor tenant. I don't know if there are enough concerts to be able to pay the debt service.
I think the location HD of that arena was set up for failure in the very beginning.
It's not palatable.
And unfortunately, they're just trying to save the asset that they have right now from a business standpoint.
Is ice hockey a viable long-term sport here?
Not in my opinion, but who am I? I only grew up in South Florida.
Well,
I've never been to a hockey game.
Excuse me, Mark. One thing we know, the only
guess.
sports that's viable in Miami are winning teams. That's not something that
And
the
we
Panthers are doing.
we definitely need to congratulate our South Florida high schools for a winning sweep, and your Pop Warner teams are sweeping the football championships.
Yeah, like
from
Gwen
all the
Cherry
top.
Park won 2
Had I
championships.
known we would have gotten video, we could have done a whole discussion on that.
I'd pay to go to that.
All right,
too.
all right.
All right, thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.
You're awesome. We love you.
We love you.
All right, up next, long past deadline, Governor Rick